Good morning, guys. Welcome to my Monday morning rants for Monday, the 4th of April, 2022. So, despite pretty much deciding not to go to my 30-year high school reunion last week, I ended up going. Got a couple of messages from people, a little bit of peer pressure. And I decided that I would at least rock up to the reunion meeting at a pub close by to the school. And most of the guys that were there was only like, I don't know, a handful of us. I don't know, 6 or 8 of us or something like that. I actually knew in high school and I hung out with them. So that made it pretty easy, to be honest. I drove in, parked near the pub in Redfern, thinking that I would just have a couple of beers. And turns out things didn't go to plan, and I ended up making it all the way through to the official reunion in King's Cross at the end of the night. It was a wild day. I think kicked off at like 1 o'clock. It was a wild day and a wild night, and it's honestly taken me a couple of days to process all the shit that went down during that day and night. And lots of shit went down. The first gathering, an old mate of ours rocked up, and turns out he's got colon cancer, and the outlook is not good, and he's basically just trying to enjoy what little time he has left on the planet. And usually I'm really cool with talking to people with cancer and people in dark places, but there was just such a finite. It's just so that he's on course, and it's all even sadder that his wife is expecting a kid sometime this or next week. So he's just holding in there for that, and it was fucking savage. All I can say was fucking savage. It was really hard to openly talk about it because the guy's so positive. He has no choice but to try to enjoy what little time he has left, and you could tell he was in a lot of pain, and I'm just so surprised that he had the energy to even show up. And part of having such a small gathering to begin with was because he was never going to make it to the official reunion because there was just too much of a risk of him catching COVID, and he had to try to minimize the risk by just catching up with a small group of us. But yeah, that was fucked up, and he hung out for as long as he could, for a few hours, and at some point he had to leave. And just to see another old mate of mine just break down crying after he left, it was emotional, man, like super emotional. And this other guy who broke down, like it was so good to catch up with him. He just ended up being such a huge influence on my life. He first introduced me to skateboarding. He brought a skate mag into art class one day, and I couldn't get over some of those pages where they were just ads, but they had like 50 skate deck designs per page. And I remember the Vision Psycho Stick skate deck standing out, and I've got it on my wall now. It's probably the first skate deck design that ever stood out at me, and it's iconic. And skate graphics have been a huge influence. and skate culture in general has been such a huge influence on my life ever since. He also introduced me to 2000 AD and Judge Dredd, and also graffiti culture, and even rap music. Ice-T, Public Enemy. Man, so it was so nice to be able to tell him that, and he was stoked to hear it. And it's so awesome that he's still out there shooting graffiti to this day, and he wants to release a graffiti book. So I've just put my hand up to get involved in that. Would love to help him out if I can, if he's up for it, which it seems like he is. And I suppose one of the greatest things that happened at the reunion was, I knew there was going to be some people that I didn't get along with in high school, that bullied me in high school. I knew they were going to be there, and I wasn't sure how that was going to pan out. But turns out I spent quite a bit of time talking to the guy that was probably the biggest bully to me in high school, and sat down next to him for quite a long time, and just had a good catch up. And he apologized like 3 times, and the first time was, it was good to hear it. The second time was unnecessary, and so was the third. Like, I just, it's not like I've been thinking about him every day ever since high school. And people change, and like, of course I forgive him. And it was really interesting to hear that he also copped a fair bit of bullying in high school. It was just good to hear it from his perspective. Like, he was a big dude in high school and quite overweight, and he's super slim now, and just hearing stuff from his perspective. And he ended up being addicted to heroin, and he's been in really dark places, and he's come clean now. And yeah, just to hear all the shit that he's gone through and the stuff that he's survived, and really changed my entire perspective. So I would say I have closure there. And it makes me realize, like, closure is such an important thing, right? Because you could just live on and try to bury shit under, like sweep things under the rug, right? And like, end of the day, you don't really fix anything if you just sweep stuff under the rug. And facing it sometimes is I don't know, it's just it feels like the right way and the clean way to do it. And like a proper weight lifted. So yeah, that was fucking awesome. And at some stage, there was meant to be a gathering at the high school itself, and we were meant to try to take a photo in the Great Hall. And apparently some of the school representatives and lecturers were going to be there to give us a tour of what's changed with the school. And none of us made it because, we were hanging out with our mate who had colon cancer, and whatever time that he could give us, we were more than happy to give him. So we skipped that completely. And from what I heard afterwards, the school was trying to ask people for like $3,000 to have your name on a plaque in the hall, trying to scam everyone for money. And I'm just like, fuck that. I'm fucking glad I did not go to the high school. I really would have liked to take some photos there, to be honest. I did have my camera. But yeah, missed out on that. But then on the way to the official reunion in King's Cross, we went through Kipax Lake. And that's the lake across from our high school, Sydney Boys. And a small group of us used to always go to the lake before high school dances, the Sydney girls' high school dances. And there'd always be guys and girls there. And you can imagine horny kids. A whole lot of heavy petting went down there. a shit ton of underage drinking, and it's funny when you're there. There's this statue in the middle of the lake, and it's not far away from the edges of the lake, but we never managed to hit that fucking thing. We would peg every empty bottle at that, and we'd just never hit it. But yeah, that brought back a lot of memories, and that was cool hanging out there. I was trying to sober up at that point because I still didn't want to go to the official reunion at that point. But again, after an hour or so there, the boys convinced me to go to the official reunion. So we walked from there to the cross. And yeah, that's the bit that I didn't really like. Hey, like it felt like the 10-year reunion that I went to, where I didn't recognize more than half the faces there. I literally had to ask people who they were, and then when they would tell me who they were, I sort of sometimes remembered some of the names, but I knew I didn't talk to them in high school. Initially, I was quite surprised at how many people knew what I do for a living, shooting. You know, from their mouths, is like shooting half naked women, and they wanted to know more about it. And some people had followed me through like Australian in front sort of design days and the car stuff. And I suppose everyone's just trying to be nice, right? It's a 30-year reunion, and everyone's just trying to be nice to each other, kind of like pissing in each other's pockets, you know. And I was a bit uncomfortable with that, to be honest, and I tried to avoid talking about my photography and what I do, because some of the typical sort of questions came up again, like, you know, do you sleep with these girls? And no. I was just like, oh my God. I just didn't want to talk about it. And yeah, there was just some awkward conversations, and one guy that I hung out with a lot in high school that I actually banned off Facebook a few years ago when I was in a really dark place. He came on to say, hey, you know, you seem to be a really happy person to me in high school, and he couldn't understand why I was trying to blame some bad experiences from high school for my depression. And I suppose he's just never going to get it. It's not about blaming any one thing, you know. When someone's out there asking for help, like, you just don't fucking discount it, you know. And that's what he was doing, and that's what he was still doing, and he still doesn't get it. And he's just an awkward dude, man. He just hasn't got a boundary, and he's not a vibe guy, because he can't fucking tell if someone's vibe. Like, I was not giving him positive vibes, but he kept hugging me, kissed me on the forehead multiple times, kept buying me drinks, and wanted to know where we were at, and whether we could hang out and catch up and all that stuff. And he just couldn't pick up on my energy. And yeah, awkward as fuck. And yeah, I don't know what to do about that. I suppose nothing. But yeah, I really wasn't enjoying myself too much at the official reunion. It's just too many people that I didn't know, too much small talk going on, reminiscing about high school, and talking about what you were doing for work these days, or complaining about your kids. Everyone had kids, you know. So yeah, I know the tighter crew, like the guys that were at the lake. They wanted to continue on and have a really crazy night. But at around 9 o'clock, I called it. I had to get out of there, and more than happy to catch up with those guys again, but not. Yeah, you know, I wasn't gonna hang out with, like, you know, I don't know how many people there, like almost 100 or so guys, and didn't know. I think I didn't know more than 80% of them. But yeah, I was pretty drunk at that point, so I was trying my best to sober up whilst I was there, and at some point, you know, I decided I should be okay to drive home, so I ended up walking all the way back from King's Cross to Redfern, and to sober up as well, you know, and walked past the school again, and I couldn't contain myself. I had to fucking hang a piss. So hung a piss on Anzac Parade, which was pretty fascinating. Felt good. I don't think I pissed on a tree in a long time. I think the last time I pissed on a tree was like Sydney to Wollongong, where there were like queues of guys trying to wait for the toilet at the national park, and I'm like, fuck that, I'm a guy, I can piss on a tree. And then I went past like a kebab shop that I used to go to every week because I used to hang out with a whole bunch of arty students in design school, and they all lived in Redfern, and I pretty much lived there as well. And we used to get like just some bread and dips. It was like $1 for the bread. So since I was feeling nostalgic anyway, I dropped in there, got a kebab, ate that on the way back to the car, and drove home. And I just couldn't believe that I was still alive. But yeah, I think I'm still processing. The night. It was it was heavy, and I don't regret going at all. There was some real emotion there and some real heart to heart. I was really blunt to people, you know. I was at some stage in the night, like I think I was, you know, tipsy, and I was just telling people straight up to their faces, dude, like I never spoke to you in high school, or never hung out with you, and you know, I was asking people, sorry, but who are you and what's your name? And if I didn't recognize their name, I would say it. And I suppose I was fucking awkward to people as well. A bit blunt, same old me. But yeah, I think I'm still processing just what went down, and I definitely don't regret going. I definitely resolved a few things, but I'm also heavy-hearted about a mate of mine who's got cancer, you know. My dad died from colon cancer, so I know how savage it is and how it overtakes your body so quickly. And he, you know, you could see that he was suffering. So yeah, I'm still processing it. I don't know. I think I need to write something about it rather than just hop on here and just rant, because I feel like there's some solid takeaways from it, and I want to write it down. I want to blog about it. So yeah, I'll do that this week. Apart from that, I think after last week's rant, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and I was so tempted to hop on the mic and share my thoughts about that, because it really did blow my mind. There's a lot of comedians that I was a fan of that aren't around anymore because of cancel culture. So I'm not surprised cancel culture is kicking in. That Hollywood's trying to cancel Will Smith and all this shit. But you know what? Fuck. At the same time, I saw a talk that Candace Owens did about the situation, and fuck, she's a savage. She absolutely nails it. There's nothing more for me to say. I've got nothing to do with it anyway, right? So I've just been watching that kind of shit on YouTube. That's the rabbit hole I'm down, and it's quite entertaining, to be honest. It's sad, but it's also entertaining. I've got a shoot tomorrow, and I've also booked in with Sasha, a girl that I've shot with a couple of times, and she's now an official tattoo artist, and I'm so proud of her. She's always been an amazing artist, and I've been G'ing for her to get a job as a tattoo artist for many years. And all these years later, she's done it. So I've booked in. I think I'm just going to get all my hands fucking done. Everything that I've done on my hands, I'm going to redo, get her to redo, and do some other shit and just fuck my hands up some more. So yeah, that's about it. Sorry, it's been a bit of a and kind of Monday morning rant. It's hard to not mention names with what went down at the reunion, but I'm still processing it, and I think I will be for quite some time, to be honest. But yeah, I hope everyone has a good week. Thank fuck the sun is out, because I swear as that couple of days of rain just brought the mold back. Hey, so I've got to clean up the house for the shoot tomorrow, and that's what I'll be doing for the rest of the day. I hope everyone has a good week. I shall catch you guys in the next one. See yous.